more than that because that's where we were.
45.
Yeah.
45, yeah.
Yeah, Coach, well, congratulations on the win. Once we're talking about that, in that inning, you're talking about Dom Stagliano. I was thinking bases loaded, no outs. It'd be positive if UCF got out of it only trailing 4-0, but with no outs to strike out the next 3 and get out of it just trailing 2-0. How big was it for him to come back in that moment?
Yeah, we talk about if you're going to start, you got to be your own reliever, and I think he was his own reliever probably twice in that inning. The plate, like you're half a play away from getting the out there, and it's 1-0, and nobody's on base, and then to go through that and deal with that adversity. And then have to deal with it again and punch out 3 guys to give us a chance. I told him after the game, we got no shot of doing what we did later in the game if he doesn't do that right there.
Yeah, Dominic Castellano, it was the Dom and Dom show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare the pitching tonight versus last night?
I mean, Vespi was great. So, it was just the stuff that happened at the end of the bullpen. I think Vespi and both the Doms were on it you saw it, fastball to both sides, up when they needed to, command of multiple secondary pitches, and just competed and fielded their position.
What do you say about Zyska's home run and everything that led up to it?
Yeah, I think that's just a conference game at night in front of a big crowd and the energy of 18 to 22-year-olds fighting out there. That just stuff kind of happens. But to stay composed, to get the right pitch, and to deliver in a big moment, I've seen that guy do that time and time again.
What does that say about the clutch hitting of this team?
Well, it's nice to see. If you're going to do this and do this at a high level, you got to pitch, defend, you got to execute on offense, and you got to be timely on offense. And if you can't deliver with some of that, especially early in the game, we had some shots and didn't get it done, just to stay with it, and make some adjustments.
Did you feel like you kind of left some meat on the bone? You just talked about it. Just runners left in scoring position, you just kind of waiting for that breakthrough hit.
Yeah, and that's what early. I thought Jack actually, his first ball, I thought he hit pretty well, but the wind was, dead in at that point. Had some other shots where I think they would want those at-bats back with the pitch selection and the aggression of the swing, but we put ourselves in position late.
Bit of deja vu for Jack. Hit a 3-run go-ahead home run last night and did it again tonight. What makes him such a danger at the plate for those kind of hits?
Well, obviously he's gifted. He's a gifted hitter. He's what we would call a professional hitter. He's prepared. He's been in those situations before. He has a plan, and he'll stick to it hell or high water, and competes his tail off.
Would you just think of the vibe, the atmosphere? It seems like both teams were kind of chirping at each other. Even these tense conference games, it kind of feels like a rivalry here. I know you guys have played before, though.
Yeah, and obviously I don't think I've ever played Cincinnati before, but our guys have. And it doesn't matter who's in the other dugout. It's a conference game on Saturday night with a great crowd at our place, and we're trying to get this series evened up, and I'm just glad the guys play with some energy.
What do you say about King's first RBI?
Dylan's, he's put together some really, when you look at those numbers, no hits with runners in scoring position to that point, I would have to look at the numbers to actually notice that, because he's put some really good at-bats together, and he's earned that hit that he got today. It was at a big spot. The difference between 4-2 and 5-2 right there is enormous.
You shuffled around a little bit. Brait was back, but at second base, just kind of, his shoulder's been sore. Was that kind of the reason?
Just try to shorten his throw. And he's, we had talked about moving him to second in the fall. He's just so dang good at third base that we left him over there. So he, almost every day, he takes ground balls at second in some form or fashion, and he can do it. I have no problem putting Andrew Brait at any of those positions in the infield.
There were a couple of mishaps on the defensive end tonight. Did you see any room for improvement there?
Always. We're trying to not play perfect defense, but try to play clean defense. And there's the one ball that hit off Mikey's glove. That's a tough play, but I think you ask him, he's going to catch that 99 times out of 100. And the one fly ball's is just in the air too long for it not to get caught. But besides that, and I think the Brait thing, when you look at that throw, he was on it, but he had to wait on Lex to get there and just didn't do that correctly.
Had a couple of pinch hits tonight with Williamson and Nearai. How do you kind of, you have the depth on this team, so how do you kind of shuffle around and kind of handle this depth when it comes to bringing people in and out?
Well, we look at the way the lineup's configured when we start the day, and kind of where Sonny is, because at some point, if this is the game we need, we're going to have to run for him, and that spot is going to come back up again, and who we'd use based on who they have in the bullpen, and we felt like those were the right spots to use Willie and Danny, and it worked out.
What would you say the biggest difference is for the UCF team that we saw tonight versus the UCF that we saw last night from this team?
Yeah, we didn't give them a lot. We gave them a couple of those defensive miscues, but the pitching, I don't know how many walks we had, but it wasn't a bunch, and I felt like we commanded the strike zone the whole game. We just didn't finish that game last night.
Big game tomorrow to decide the series. Cade, box record,
most likely,
going, probably?
We'll talk about that, but that's probably where we're going with it.
What do you want them to take with them from tonight to going into this rubber match?
Yeah, I think you got to like use that. Like sometimes you're trying to forget stuff and roll into the next day and just move on. This one you got to use a little bit. Use that energy with that edge that we played with tonight. Obviously we're better with it, so let's just keep it.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you guys.